You're watching the legal breakdown. So, Glenn, Fox is now contending with yet another lawsuit, this time from a former senior producer for Tucker Carlson and Maria Bartiromo named Abby Grossberg. We've spoken about her before. I think the primary question here is, with everything that Tucker's done in these last few years, and especially in these last few months that were leading up to the events of January 6th and this past election, why could a potential gender discrimination lawsuit from Grossberg be the thing that pushes Murdoch to fire the network's most valuable on-air personality?
That's a great question, Brian. I wish I had a great answer. It's a little bit of a curiosity because when you look at, Dominion suing them for 1.6 billion and Fox settles for $750 million, you look at Smartmatic suing them for almost twice as much. And frankly, because Fox has already flinched when it comes to these suits that are being brought against Fox News and Fox Corporation, they are very likely to have to settle the Smartmatic suit. And then along comes Abby Grossberg. And I'll tell you, when you read about and you hear about some of what she is alleging, it is this toxic brew of sexism and misogyny and anti-Semitism. And then there's also the piece where, Fox is trying to get her to make misrepresentations in depositions to protect Fox and Fox anchors. She also talks about how Fox executives are asking her to spy on Maria Bartiromo. I mean, it is this ugly, nasty, toxic brew that really makes Tucker Carlson and his producers, several of whom she has also named in the suit, look extraordinarily bad. Now, is this the kind of thing that would finally be the straw that broke the camel's back and have Rupert Murdoch say, okay, I've had enough of Tucker? Well, when he was peddling democracy-busting lies, and frankly, these lies, we all know, sort of inspired, at least in part, a deadly attack on the U.S. Capitol. It's hard to see how this is the thing that might have been the last straw in the mind of Rupert Murdoch. So you have to believe it's kind of the cumulative effect of everything that has built up. Frankly, I think a large part of it is once Dominion dug in and were able to depose Tucker Carlson and company and were able to get their hands on behind the scenes written communications that outed the Tucker Carlsons of the organization, I think that was really what probably spelled the death knell for Tucker Carlson at Fox News.
Well, I guess that raises the question, if the damage is already done, if Tucker and his production team, if they already did the discriminatory acts, then why fire him and deprive that network of its biggest cash cow, basically? Like, it doesn't seem likely that Rupert Murdoch was interested in doing the right thing here when his entire business model is predicated on exactly that brand of toxic masculinity that Tucker's accused of showing here in this Abby Grossberg suit. So what do you presume that the reason for this might be?
I have to believe it is a flat out cost benefit analysis. They could have kept Tucker in place, right? Keep the eyeballs on the program, keep the revenue dollars flowing into Fox's coffers, even though, everybody now knows what Tucker Carlson is. He's a liar. He's a democracy buster. He is this sort of serial abuser of his producers. He's misogynistic. He's anti-Semitic. And I mean, some of the crazy coarse language that has been disclosed in this lawsuit is just kind of mind-numbing. But they may have made the calculation that if we get rid of Tucker, maybe that will begin to mitigate some of the damage that we can expect in all of these future lawsuits. So it may have literally been getting accountants at Fox to crunch the numbers. Do we make more by keeping Tucker in place, spewing the nonsense he's been spewing all along, or do we make more getting rid of Tucker, replacing him with somebody who may be equally odious, but maybe we end up being able to settle in a more favorable way in some of these future suits, or maybe we go to trial and end up being able to successfully defend ourselves in these suits by saying in part, hey, we got rid of the biggest offender, Tucker Carlson. See, we're really not so bad after all. But at the bottom of it all, I have to believe this decision, even though we don't know completely what was driving it, this decision is about money.
Yeah, and it's pretty amazing how we even know moving forward that Fox can't just be like, look, don't you can't do this again. They have to say like we already know this is going to happen and the only way to mitigate this in the future, we can't even fix it by just telling him not to do it. The only way to fix this right now is to get rid of him because it's a certainty that someone like Tucker Carlson is going to put them in legal jeopardy again. And so the liability is just too great because that's just who he is. And so rather than just give him a talking to and say, you really screwed up this time. If you do it again, we're completely screwed. It's not even worth it for them to do that because it's such a guarantee, it's such a certainty that he'll land them in legal trouble in the future again, that they just made the calculation here, presumably, that it's just easier to cut him loose right now before he costs them even more money. Glenn, with regard to the Abby Grossberg suit, what is the punishment for a lawsuit like this?
Yeah, so it's all about the money, right? It's what kind of damages, financial damages, Tucker Carlson did to Abby Grossberg. And, assuming she wins on the liability question, that yes, Tucker created a hostile work environment, engaged in harassment, sexual harassment, or other forms of harassment, engaged in misogynistic behavior, anti-Semitic behavior, her reputation was damaged, her career prospects were damaged, and she can prove all of that. It's going to come down to money. How much should Tucker Carlson and Fox, and she has named in the suit the Fox News, the Fox Corporation, Fox Executive, several of Tucker Carlson's producers, as well as Tucker Carlson himself. How much damage can she prove? That is, what lost earnings can she prove? What future earnings has she been deprived of because what she was put through by Tucker Carlson and company? So it's all going to come down to the money. And then she could also seek punitive damages, sort of damages that send a signal, send a message that, Fox or other organizations that, might be contemplating running the kind of workplace that Fox was running will be deterred, because if they have to pay out a whole bunch of money as a settlement, then that sends the signal to other organizations that you better not replicate what Fox did.
Glenn, I know that your focus is criminal litigation as opposed to civil, but just judging based on what you know, your past here, how strong do you think Abby Grossberg's case is here?
It seems pretty strong because she's got some receipts. She will actually be able to take advantage of some of what was disclosed in the discovery from the Dominion case. And we've all read some of what, Tucker Carlson was saying. Like, for example, we saw the email traffic where he was saying Sidney Powell is a liar. And then he would go right on and put Sidney Powell on to spout the very lies that he knew she was telling. And these were dangerous lies. One of the things that Abby Grossberg revealed in her recent interview was really staggering. She said that Tucker Carlson wanted to spin this conspiracy theory involving the FBI putting plants in the audience on January 6th. And he wanted to blame the FBI for really the January 6th Capitol attack as a way to divert attention away from Fox, because Fox was broadcasting these lies about January 6th. And she said he was so stuck on trying to present some information about his conspiracy theory that when she went out and talked to people, including attorneys for the Proud Boys, and tried to find somebody who was willing to say this, she said even the attorneys for the Proud Boys said, there's no evidence of that. That's not what happened. She took that back to Tucker Carlson, and she was told, yeah, but you know what? Tucker is really stuck on this, so go find somebody who will say it. I mean, that is the opposite of journalism. Tucker Carlson wants to feed some BS to his viewers, so the truth really doesn't matter. Just go out and find anybody who will say what Tucker Carlson wants them to say. Boy, you start presenting that as part of your evidence in this suit that you bring against Tucker Carlson, his producers, Fox Corp. I have to believe that it's going to be a really strong case on the merits.
Yeah, and again, the part that strikes me as so bizarre is that it's not like Rupert Murdoch didn't know that this was happening. Again, this is what the entire Fox News organization is built on. It's built on these conclusions in search of evidence. Fox News went ahead. I mean, it's not like it escaped Rupert Murdoch that when January 6th happened, that nobody knew that all of the lies they were telling about January 6th with Rudy Giuliani and Sidney Powell and just the abject outright lunacy was ever anything other than just a circus meant to deflect, like you said, away from the actual events of the actual cause of January 6th, which was just that Trump was lying to try to give himself some justification to steal the election. So it's not like they didn't know this. So it just seems so bizarre to me that for some reason, arbitrarily, Rupert Murdoch just decides now that this suddenly isn't acceptable when this is the entire organization that he's built. This wasn't some new divergent path for Tucker Carlson and Maria Bartiromo and Lou Dobbs and all these other people that were named in the suit. This is what the entire thing was built on. So I guess the interesting thing will be if we ever get some indication as to the real reason that this is happening. But I guess that lends itself to my last question here, which is, will we have a definitive answer, maybe thanks to this Abby Grossberg trial or lawsuit, as to why Tucker Carlson was let go?
I have a feeling we're not going to get a definitive answer to that question. But the other thing that Rupert Murdoch may be trying to do, maybe trying to get in front of, is there have been a couple of shareholders suits brought against Fox, including one that was brought just in recent days. And there was reporting that some of the shareholders are trying to put together a class action shareholder lawsuit against the Fox executives. This firing of Tucker Carlson may also be a way to appease or try to calm the shareholders rather than, having an enormous class action lawsuit by all of his shareholders coming against him for running Fox Corp negligently by not taking the kind of action to, deal with the chronic lies of a Tucker Carlson. So that may be another reason that Rupert Murdoch was finally willing to pull the plug on Tucker Carlson.
But Glenn, I mean, the horse is out of the barn here, and if these shareholders actually do have a case, they're going to move forward because they feel like they deserve financial compensation. They're not looking for Fox to do the right thing. Fox had the opportunity to do the right thing before, and that was commensurate with their fiduciary obligation to those shareholders. But once Fox failed at that duty, now these shareholders just kind of, I would imagine that they would just see dollar signs, and they're not going to just not move forward with litigation that they could win just because Rupert Murdoch made some peace offering to them after the fact. They're going to move forward with their lawsuit because they think that they can win this lawsuit. No?
Yeah, I tend to agree, but I do think for the shareholders, it is probably also a cost-benefit analysis. And if they feel like maybe Murdoch can put some sort of fixes in place, I think it unlikely, but if he can, and, he can get the shareholders back on track to, seeing their own portfolio do a little bit better. I think everything with Fox News, and I presume with their shareholders, is always going to come down to dollars and cents, a cost-benefit analysis.
Well, look, I don't think Fox News's shareholders are listening much to me, but I would say get paid. That would be my best advice here. Fox already screwed up. They have this opportunity in front of themselves to get paid because of that massive, grave error, an error that is so big that it actually caused Rupert Murdoch to possibly fire their biggest star. So if that's not some indication of a guilty conscience right there, and an indication of how well positioned these shareholders are to actually make some money from this lawsuit, I don't know what is. So with that said, obviously a lot more to come on this case in particular. So for anybody watching, if you want to keep up with this stuff, make sure to subscribe. The links are right here on this screen. I'm Brian Tyler Cohen.
And I'm Glenn Kirshner.
You're watching The Legal Breakdown.